All right, so let's go ahead and pick up with our next story. We're going to continue talking about Israel, my friends. Unfortunately, there's quite a bit to say this week on Israel. So this next section of the show is focused on the media takeover, the media and social media and U.S. policy takeover by Israel, how Israel has control of U.S. foreign policy. This is no surprise to many of you out there, but we've got even more information about this. So let's go ahead and start with Marco Rubio. Now, as I talked about last week when I was discussing how there is a technocratic takeover of the media, not only with Larry Ellison of Oracle, who's CIA connected, part of the Project Stargate that Trump announced when he first came into office. Not only is Larry Ellison apparently going to be a part of the purchase of TikTok, which many people are speculating was done to get rid of the anti-Israel sentiment, which is pretty prominent on TikTok, which is mostly Gen Z, of course, people of all ages, but there's definitely a prominent anti-Israel questioning of the narrative sentiment there. And so you got technocrats like Larry Ellison, who is very much in Israel's pocket, trying to help get TikTok. And then at the same time, Larry Ellison's son, who we'll talk about in a moment, who now is the head of this new company, this merger of CBS and Paramount and Skydance. It's called the Paramount Skydance Corporation, I believe. And his son, David Ellison, is also playing a big role. So you got both Ellisons. The elder Ellison, who's 80 now, started Oracle. He's been calling for the freaking police state since 9/11, and he's the one who said we're going to have everybody on their best behavior once there's cameras everywhere and digital IDs and stuff like that. Well, this new article coming from DropSite News, which I think is a great source for those of you who like geopolitics, they have more of a left-leaning bent, but they are good reporters. Larry Ellison vetted Marco Rubio for fealty to Israel, hacked emails reveal. The billionaire Oracle founder is on track to take control of the American media. Everything is coming together for Larry Ellison, the billionaire co-founder of tech giant Oracle, on again and off again, richest man of the world, and a staunch supporter of Israel, is set to take a leading role in reshaping TikTok in the U.S. His son, as I said, David Ellison, is moving to take over large swaths of media, including CBS, CNN, Warner Brothers, and Paramount, and reportedly bringing in the Free Press's Barry Weiss to help shape the pro-Israel editorial direction. And so Wired magazine recently reported the Ellison family is cornering the market on attention and data the same way the Vanderbilts did the railroads and the Rockefellers did oil. How they plan to operate that monopoly is on course to be tested out in what Donald Trump is calling New Gaza, which we were just talking about, the technocratic free trade zone. So the article goes on here, though, to show how leaked emails show that Larry Ellison was in charge of vetting Marco Rubio as the Secretary of State for Donald Trump. And I mean, that really shouldn't be a big surprise, but it just shows you this sort of network of technocrats and Zionists, which I was warning about prior to the election, were funding both sides of the election. So here we go. This says that Rubio finds himself in such a central position is in part thanks to Ellison, who has been a major patron of the Cuban-American former senator from Florida. Ellison first vetted Rubio for his fealty, which means his allegiance, back towards Israel back in early 2015, according to previously unreported email correspondences reviewed by DropSite News. Rubio rose to prominence as a so-called Tea Party-backed conservative back in 2010, launching a presidential campaign in the 2016 cycle. As Secretary of State, he launched an unprecedented crackdown on free speech, detaining and attempting to deport critics of Israel precisely for the crime of their criticism of Israel. In early 2015, Ellison was emailing Ron Prosor, who was serving in the tail end of his time as the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations. He currently serves as the Israeli ambassador to Germany. At the time, Rubio was seen as a strong challenger in the GOP presidential field. The emails show that the Israeli diplomat and Ellison were arranging to meet with one another, with the Israeli diplomat soliciting Ellison's views on Rubio as a potential candidate who would advocate on behalf of Israel. It says, Larry, hi, please send me his speech. Thanks, Ron. On April 2015, the Israeli diplomat sent Ellison an email titled Rubio's Speech, asking him to send him a copy of the speech ahead of time. The next day, the two traded messages indicating that the Israeli diplomat and Ellison had dinner together and that Ellison would soon be meeting Rubio directly. He says, quote, I had a great time too, Ron. I'm looking forward to the next time. P.S. I'll tell you how dinner goes with Senator Rubio. Then on April 30th, Prosor sent another message to Ellison to follow up, sharing his phone number and thanking him again for the evening they spent together. He asked, how was the conversation with Mario Rubio? Did he pass your scrutiny? Did you have a chance to talk about Israel? I would love to chat. A few hours later, Ellison said, hi, Ron, great meeting with Marco Rubio. I set him up to meet with Tony Blair. Marco will be a great friend for Israel. Wow, they're making it clear. And then beyond that, they continue to talk. And a month later, Larry Ellison who had backed Mitt Romney at a fundraiser in 2012, he backed Rubio. So he goes first to meet with Rubio, sit down, have a dinner with him. He's communicating with the Israeli ambassador to the UN. And then they're talking about like, hey, well, where does he stand? Is he on Israel's side? And Ellison ends up endorsing him. And there's more details in this. Especially, I encourage you to learn more about the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. This is, people are always talking about how the NGOs are funded by George Soros and things of that sort, which is true, but it doesn't look like they're actually paying as much attention to the right-wing NGOs like Tony Blair and the Institute for Global Change and how Larry Ellison is connected to that and how they're serving Israel's interest. And wouldn't you know, as we just read, Tony Blair, former Prime Minister of the UK, will be a part of this technocratic